John, what variety is this huge tomato here?
This tomato is one of the big beef varieties, or one of the beefsteak varieties, and this one I believe is Beef Master. And it says, this is kind of a small, if that is true, in the advertisement, it says up to 2 pounds. This one weighed only 1.25 pounds, and I thought it was big. And I like them. I like this size. One slice covers a whole slice of bread. These yellow ones are yellow pears. They're a miniature tomato. Flavor, they're great. And they are prolific, and in growth they'll spread, keep the distance between them about a foot longer or greater than my spacing this year, because they'll take them up. But they're, as I say, you'll pick hundreds of these if you happen to have 3-4 plants. The one drawback, they, like a lot of these miniatures, they do crack easily. When they are mature, you've got to get them picked, because if you come back a day later, chances are they're going to be split.
Okay, then what is this one? It almost looks like a Roma.
That's what it reminds you of. In fact, I even looked to see, they are a hybrid, they're called Juliet. And this here, I really like this kind. They get about, this 1.5 to 2 inches. And unlike the Sweet 100s or the yellow pear, they have good shelf life. They can remain on the plant for days and days and days after they're ripe, or they can fall off and lay on the ground. And if they're mulched in particular, they don't spoil, they don't split, and you can tell why. The skin is considerably thicker and tougher. But I really like them for that reason. And they'll have they're indeterminate, and so they keep bearing till frost now, if the conditions are right. So I really find that these and they were a All-America winner here at one time, so they're well thought of, I think, by many. And these other little ones here, these are Sweet 100s. They're grape tomato. And they, like a marble, they're very good eating, but tender. Very tender and split easily, but you got to pick them that day and eat them, or certainly in a day or so.
And I see a tomato right in front of you that oftentimes people will ask me about this. What's going on with this one?
Someone just brought me a tomato the other day, the very same situation. And this is what we call blossom end rot. That the tomatoes will begin, and frankly, they're heartbreakers in a way. It's a heartbreaker, because you see this lovely tomato that is starting to form, and you pick it up and you think, oh, the first tomato of the season. You turn it over and there's that ugly black spot underneath it. That's blossom end rot, and it starts there where the blossom has been attached to the fruit. And that's the area where you usually get it. And when they say, not necessarily inadequate watering, but spotty, when sometimes they need it. They also sometimes need water. Other times they say it's a calcium deficiency, or the inability of the plant to the calcium in the soil. Another issue a lot of times in the summer is what you call sun scald. It's a sunburn. The tomatoes that are exposed to the sun tend to sunburn. And that particular area, apparently it damages the cells, and it starts to turn kind of a yellowish color, and eventually turns here and then splits open, and that tomato, of course, is of no value anymore. And that is why I guess I've never been one who prunes tomatoes very much. Once in a while, but very rarely, simply because I think in our hot sun, you've got a problem with sun scald. This one goes back in the compost pile instead of trying to eat it, because usually quantity hasn't been a problem as far as tomatoes are concerned.
What do you do with your whole harvest?
When my wife's out in West Wind Village, when she was here, we used to can together, and we'd can a lot of things. And we've got several daughters and families that would come home and they'd can. And the last couple of years, I've canned whole tomatoes and tomato juice and the like, but most of it I simply give away. And there's 3-4 people that I know that still can. And so I just call them up when I've got 35 pounds or so. I like enough tomatoes so I don't have to putz, let's say, with 2 jars at a time. I want to do 2 canners at a time when I start canning tomatoes and the like, and then I don't have to wash those dishes up after for 2 quarts. The same dishes, I can get 14 quarts if I have 2 cookers full. So I don't usually have trouble with getting tomatoes away and the like. Zucchini, sometimes a little different.
John, I think there people are going to be calling you to see if they can be your neighbor after seeing this show.
Well,
When you're all done with the season then, what do you do with the plants and the vines? Do you work them back into the garden?
no, I usually with indeterminate growth, you've got green tomatoes when you're through. And I might pick up sometimes 2 5-gallon pails full of tomatoes that didn't ripen. And the like, then I pull up the plants and I haul them out to the landfill. I don't think that, I'm a little hesitant about vines and leaves because of the disease possibilities that there is perhaps a place where they'll be harboring the fungi and the blights and the like that cause you problem with tomatoes. So I just pull them out and get rid of them.
Those green tomatoes, what do you do with them to get them to finish ripening? How do you treat them?
I just, usually by the time they stop ripening, and they perhaps will, there won't be so many, and frankly, at that particular time, I'm tomatoed out. If some of them don't get ripe, that's just part of the whole situation. Part of the scenario about raising tomatoes is you're going to have some with these indeterminate tomatoes. If they went to December without frosting, you'd maybe still have some that are green. So.
Well, thank you so much for teaching us how you grow such great tomatoes. And I have to say, yours are twice the size of mine. So now I'm going to have to try some of the things you do and see if I can get better luck.
First thing, you want to get the beefsteak variety. That'll help. And spread them out enough. I think my Super Fantastic, they're crowded a little bit and they have numerous tomatoes, but I think they're running smaller than what they usually do. So if you've got the room, spread them out a little bit, give them plenty of room, and also disease. So the air can circulate back and forth between the plants. That dries off the leaves and they're less susceptible to disease.